The silk pillowcase felt cool against my cheek, a stark contrast to the fire burning in my gut. I stared at the ceiling, the faint glow of the digital alarm clock mocking me with its relentless march forward. 3:17 a.m. Another sleepless night. Another night spent replaying the fragments of overheard conversations, the furtive glances, the subtle shifts in her routine. My wife, Amelia, was having an affair. I'd known for a while, the signs too glaring to ignore. The late nights at work, the hushed phone calls taken in the other room, the new perfume that I hadn't bought her. The gut feeling, that primal instinct screaming at me that something was fundamentally wrong. Denying it had become an exhausting exercise, a futile attempt to preserve the fragile illusion of our happy marriage. But the truth, like a persistent weed, had pushed its way through the cracks, choking the life out of everything we'd built. Tonight, the dam finally broke. I'd seen the text message flash across her locked phone screen while she was in the shower, a heart emoji followed by, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." The name above the message confirmed my worst fears. It was Kevin, her colleague, the one with the slicked back hair and the overly familiar laugh. The anger, a dull ache for weeks, now pulsed through me, hot and sharp. But beneath the anger, a deeper, more profound emotion gnawed at me: betrayal. We'd been together for 10 years, married for 7. We'd weathered job losses, the death of her father, the agonizing fertility treatments that ultimately led to the joyful chaos of our 2 beautiful children, now sleeping soundly down the hall. How could she risk all of this? How could she shatter our family for a fleeting thrill? I got out of bed, the floorboards creaking beneath my weight. I walked to the study, the room where we kept our most precious memories, photo albums filled with smiling faces, framed pictures of our wedding day, the children's finger paintings tacked to the corkboard. I stared at a picture of Amelia and me, taken on our honeymoon in Italy. We were standing on a sun-drenched balcony, overlooking the sparkling Mediterranean Sea, our arms wrapped around each other, our faces radiant with love. My heart ached with the memory of that happiness, now tainted, irrevocably stained by her deceit. Revenge. The word formed in my mind, cold and hard. Not the petty, impulsive kind. I wanted something calculated, something that would cut as deeply as she had cut me. Something that would make her understand the magnitude of her betrayal. I went back to the bedroom and stood over her sleeping form. She looked peaceful, almost innocent. For a moment, I hesitated. Could I really go through with this? Then I remembered the text message, the lies, the shattered trust. My resolve hardened. I picked up a pen and paper from the nightstand and wrote a simple note. Just 4 words. 4 words that held the power to dismantle her carefully constructed world. I placed the note on her pillow, right next to her cheek, where she would see it the moment she opened her eyes. Then I left. I drove aimlessly through the deserted streets, the city lights blurring into a meaningless kaleidoscope. I didn't know where I was going, what I was going to do. All I knew was that I couldn't stay in that house, not anymore. The next morning, I received a frantic call from my neighbor. Amelia had collapsed. She had found the note, read the 4 words, and succumbed to a full-blown panic attack. The 4 words. I know about Kevin. I rushed to the hospital, a strange mix of dread and satisfaction churning in my stomach. She was lying in a bed, pale and shaken, her eyes wide with fear. When she saw me, a flicker of recognition, then pure terror, washed over her face. How did you know?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "It doesn't matter," I said, my voice cold and flat. "What matters is that it's over. Between us." Over. The following days were a blur of legal proceedings, tearful conversations with the children, and the agonizing process of disentangling our lives. Amelia confessed everything, begging for forgiveness, promising to change. But the damage was done. The trust, the foundation of our relationship, had been irrevocably shattered. I hadn't finished with Kevin, though. I tracked him down at his office, a sleek, modern building in the city center. I barged into his office, ignoring the startled receptionist, and confronted him. He was surprised, then defiant, then finally, as the realization of the consequences of his actions dawned on him, terrified. His career, his reputation, everything he had worked for, was about to come crashing down. I didn't lay a hand on him, but the verbal lashing I unleashed was enough to leave him trembling, a broken man. His affair with Amelia had cost him dearly. Word spread through the office like wildfire. He was ostracized by his colleagues, reprimanded by his superiors, and eventually fired. Amelia, stripped of her husband, her home, and the illusion of her perfect life, was left to pick up the pieces. The shame and the guilt were her constant companions. She had lost everything, and the realization of what she had thrown away was a punishment far greater than anything I could have inflicted. The divorce was finalized a few months later. It was a painful process, but necessary. I was awarded custody of the children, and we moved into a smaller house, a fresh start in a new neighborhood. Life was different, harder in many ways, but there was also a sense of peace, a quiet strength that came from knowing I had done what was right. The pain of betrayal lingered, a dull ache in my heart, but it no longer consumed me. I focused on the children, on rebuilding our lives, on creating new memories, untainted by the shadows of the past. I learned to forgive, not for her sake, but for mine. Forgiveness, I realized, wasn't about condoning her actions, it was about freeing myself from the bitterness and anger that held me captive. One evening, a few years later, I was sitting on the porch swing, watching the children play in the yard. The setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, a breathtaking spectacle of nature's artistry. A sense of contentment washed over me, a quiet satisfaction that came from knowing I had survived the storm. I had faced the darkness and emerged, scarred but stronger, ready to embrace whatever the future held. The note, those 4 simple words, had been the catalyst for a chain of events that had changed our lives forever. And while the pain of the past would always be a part of me, it no longer defined me. I was free.